Welcome back to Flickr Recaps. Today we'll show you a 2016 comedy fantasy film titled Super Family. Beware, spoilers are coming up. One dark night on the Russian coast, Oleg is helping a group of smugglers to steal 1 ton of caviar on a tiny boat. His hired skipper kicks up a stink, emphasizing the boat has a 600-kilo limit and won't change his mind. But Oleg is relentless. He pretends to call his wife, who is really the smuggler, and tells him to assure the skipper it's only a 600-kilo load. It works. A ton of caviar is loaded onto the boat, but before long the boat and cargo starts to sink, so the men must swim to shore. The skipper demands to be awarded damages for his boat, so Oleg gives him his new car as compensation. Oleg is left with the skipper's old banger and a huge debt of $1 million to the smugglers. The next day, Oleg pays a visit to his girlfriend Sveta at the bank she works at to ask for a loan, but she can't help because he still owes money on another one. But Sveta has another idea. As her family own a large house, they could ask them for help. Oleg isn't thrilled with the idea. He despises Sveta's family and would prefer to avoid them. But there's no choice. The pair head to her family home. We meet Sveta's father, Boris, who likes to sing bizarre songs and hasn't left the house in years, as he's a wanted man. Her maternal grandfather, Pavel, who just wants to die already. Her sister Rita, who works as an accountant at the theatre, but with dreams of being centre stage. Her brother Tolik, who wanted to join the army but can't as he has asthma and likes training dogs. And her sister Sasha is a young girl who daydreams about growing up and has a crush on Oleg. Oleg tries to talk to Boris about his financial issue but has got to wait until Boris is done singing. When Boris finally hears what's going on, he freaks out, equating selling the house to selling his family to slavery. Oleg attempts to explain that nothing will be lost, he just needs a guarantor, but it's hopeless. Boris flat out refuses. Suddenly, their discussion is broken up when a meteorite smashes through the roof and directly strikes grandfather Pavel. Worried they're under attack, the family runs outside. They look up to see a meteorite shower and now understand what's going on. They rush back inside to check on Pavel and take him to lie down. Oleg and the siblings begin digging up the meteorite so they can sell it. When all the siblings have gone to bed, Oleg is left to dig alone. He digs all night until he's done, then crawls out of the hole where he hears Pavel beckoning him to the bed to say he's on his way out. Oleg wants to call an ambulance, but Pavel won't have it. He's lived long enough and wishes to leave this world peacefully, but before he does, he gives Oleg one last message to pass on to his family. They can all go to hell. After checking Pavel's pulse to be sure he's gone, Oleg finds Sveta to tell her what's happened, but she's fast asleep. Oleg falls asleep next to her, but when Tolik wakes him up to show him something, Sveta is gone. Oleg follows Tolik to the living room to see the meteorite has morphed into a strange liquid. Now Sasha has super strength and Rita can fly. Then Sveta appears half invisible and, surprise, Pavel turns up alive and well. But suddenly, Rita loses control and flies through the hole in the roof before falling to the ground. Pavel dies again, and Sveta becomes fully visible once more. The family get Rita inside and tether her to a chair so she can't float away again. Pavel comes back to life again, so they conclude the meteorite has given them special powers. Sveta wants to call the police, but as she leaves the room, Pavel dies again and Rita stops floating. It seems that these special powers only exist when they are together. They speak to a doctor about their unique situation, but Doc says they're healthy and there's nothing wrong with them. The way their abilities stop when they separate must come down to the way their powers work. Then, at dinner time, they discuss how they should use them. Rita wants to perform, while Pavel is convinced they will be experimented on if people find out. As Tolik feeds his dogs, he realizes he can understand them. Oleg suggests that the family should go on TV and make some money. But Boris won't have his family used in that way. In bed, Oleg asks Sveta about their money in the bank, while she wonders if she'll have invisible children. The next day, Pavel tries to hang himself, but with his family around, he'll never succeed. Boris finds out his power is teleportation when he goes to the bathroom and strains a little too hard. The family decides they need some time away to process their new reality. They go to a lake on a fishing trip, and while Boris learns to control his power, Oleg shares the plan he's been concocting. They should work together to rob a bank. As Sveta is invisible, she can walk in and out with a bag of money as everyone waits in the car close by so she doesn't lose her invisibility. Rita, Tolik and Sasha are down, but Boris doesn't want any part of it. He doesn't even care if Oleg leaves, and their powers disappear for good. Angry, Oleg gets in the car and Sveta follows, telling her family to keep Pavel's body in the basement until they return. On the drive, Oleg insists his plan is a good idea, but all of a sudden they're forced to pull over by another vehicle. It's the smugglers, and they want their money. Oleg assures them they'll have it in a month, but that's not good enough. He's got a week, or they'll sell his organs on the Chinese black market. The smugglers leave and Sveta finally understands that Oleg's debt isn't just about money. His life is in danger, so she promises to help him. The next day, the couple take Boris to go and see a beautiful new house they could afford if they go ahead with the plan. Boris isn't convinced he needs a new house, but Sveta stands up to him, telling him the whole family is fed up with their old ramshackle house and they'll move anywhere with a working toilet. Boris continues to resist until Sveta breaks down and points out that she's asking for his help for the first time in her life, yet he still won't listen. Boris finally comes round and agrees to the bank robbery. They talk about the details, how they'll pull it off and get excited about their new lives. But Sasha keeps interrupting Sveta and Oleg's private time, and the next day she puts on makeup to impress her crush. Oleg is shocked when everyone starts stating their conditions in exchange for their participation. Pavel wants to be cremated afterwards, Rita wants to fly in front of an audience, and Sasha demands a date. Oleg thinks their demands are outrageous and won't comply. This enrages Boris, who tells Oleg if he wants to be part of the family, he'll do what they want, or the deal is off. Oleg has no choice but agree to their demands. Oleg goes to see Rita at the theatre and schedules her show. Then he finally discovers what his power is. While he's in bed with Sveta, he discovers he can pour water from his finger. Sveta points out this is useful for watering the plants. The next morning, Sasha tags along while they case out the bank that will be their target. As it's not the one Sveta works at, they can avoid suspicion. As they talk it over, Sasha asks what would happen if Sveta was caught and sent to jail. Who would take care of Oleg? Amused, Sveta plays along and says Sasha could. They return home to find Tolik has shaved his head because he's finally been accepted into the army. This means he won't be able to rob the bank now, obviously. Boris is sad that he'll be losing his son, but Oleg is determined to follow the plan through. So he pulls some strings, he knows people, and arranges for the army to revoke their offer, saying it was a mistake. Tolik is understandably upset about this, but Boris can't hide how happy he is that the army saw the light. Oleg comforts Tolik and promises after they've robbed the bank he'll pull some strings to get him back in, gaining his trust, and the two share a hug. Then they go to a funeral home to make the arrangements for Pavel's cremation. They're given a note that Pavel can attach to his chest, so when the police find him dead, they'll know where to take him. After, Oleg takes Sasha out for lunch at a fancy restaurant while the family watches from afar, and Sveta invisibly sits next to them to keep an eye on her sister. Sasha wants Oleg to take her with him after the robbery because she hates her family. But before Oleg can let her down, they're interrupted by the smugglers, who happen to be eating at another table. They come closer to interrogate Oleg, and when Sasha notices they're bad guys, she gets up and gives them a savage beating. The rest of the family flee to avoid any trouble, and as they do so, of course, Sasha loses her super strength, so legs it out of the restaurant too. That night, the family listens to Tolik's dog sing the national anthem, but then it's the next day and time to put their plan into action. Oleg parks the car across the street in the sun because, as Boris points out, the area with shade has a no parking sign. Since she can only make her body invisible but not her clothes, Sveta strips off before walking to the bank invisible and naked with Oleg. Sveta stalks the bank staff to learn all the passwords and safe codes while Oleg takes a picture of the floor map in case they need to make a quick escape. Meanwhile, Boris is fed up with being in the sun and decides to move the car to a little alley for some respite from the heat. This ends up being a bad idea. That area is reserved for the bank's armoured trucks, and when one arrives, they ask the family to move from the area. Boris has to refuse, knowing Sveta will become visible. So the guards have no choice but to use their truck to push the car out of the way. A naked Sveta becomes visible in front of an employee and a client, and they can't believe their eyes. The family calls Oleg, who rushes outside and helps them drag Pavel's body to the front of the bank so they can all be close to Sveta again. Immediately, she regains her invisibility power, causing the two men to think they were just hallucinating. The family prepared to leave, but the police stop them, just to check they're okay. But as he's a wanted man, Boris is paranoid and teleports, but accidentally appears inside the cop's van and gets himself arrested for it. Hours later, Oleg sold another one of his cars and used the money to pay Boris's bond. They go home and Oleg explains how Boris hadn't been wanted at all. It was all in his head. Annoyed, he scolds the group for misbehaving, making them promise to stop arguing and abusing their powers. But the next day, they still have to accompany Rita to the theatre as part of the deal. As she's about to make her entrance on stage, Rita sees the large crowd and familiar faces and chokes. Rita flies off, no longer wanting to perform. But when Oleg goes after her, he bumps into the smugglers who take him backstage and rough him up. When they get tired of using him as a punching bag, they let him go. But Oleg is so upset and hurt that he turns on the family, blaming them for the mishaps that keep happening to them. He brands them lazy, selfish fools who would use the best technology in the world just to scratch their bottoms. Oleg is over it, tries to hoof it out of there, but Boris decides it would be a great idea to kidnap him. As night falls, the family return to the bank ready to carry out their heist. Pavel distracts some drunk men chilling nearby by drinking fuel and setting fire to his breath, while the rest of the family cover their faces and prepare themselves. Sasha pushes a truck in front of the alley from earlier to hide what they're up to. Rita attaches a chain to a window and Sasha yanks it, destroying a section of the wall. Boris teleports inside and Sasha shoves Sveta with super strength through the opening, and Rita picks Sasha up and flies her inside too. Sveta uses the code she learnt to disable the alarm, and Sasha picks up the safe like it was nothing and throws it to the street below. The family begin to remove the cash, chucking it in the car. The police arrive, but Tolek distracts them by sending the dogs after them. When they've finished stuffing the car, they collect Pavel, who sets off a cheeky explosion as he runs away, and they escape. By the time they're far away enough from the bank to stop and celebrate their success, the sun has risen. Pavel takes the opportunity to remind everyone about his part of the deal and asks them to leave him behind so he can finally die. The family say their teary goodbyes and drive away, but when they see Pavel's body fall to the ground, they change their mind and run back to save him. Pavel is not happy and shouts at them, emphasizing that this is what he wants. Boris interjects, saying that they should continue living together as a happy family, but Oleg reminds him that they can't stay because the robbery didn't go to plan, and sooner or later, the police will catch them. Besides, he and Sveta have plans to go to Thailand, Tolek will be leaving for Moscow, and Sasha and Rita want to go to Brazil. The girls want Boris to go with them, but before he can respond, Pavel exclaims that he's called the police so they can find his soon-to-be corpse. This time, the family leaves for good. But Sveta, seeing her grandfather die, is truly upset, and when Oleg starts to divvy up the stolen cash, Sveta won't accept it, instead saying they should return it. Oleg says no, and so Sveta kicks him out of the car, breaking up with him. Seeing this the family hasn't changed after all, Oleg leaves and gets his ducks in a row. He pays his debt to the smugglers, but sneakily tapes the rest of the money to his body under his clothes. He arrives at the airport to leave the country, but then sees the news that the family have been arrested trying to recover Pavel's body from the funeral home. He does his best to ignore it, but as he boards the plane, he's overcome with guilt and goes back to help them. His first stop is the funeral home, to bribe the employee into giving him the body. Considering there are so many people desperate to have Pavel's body, the man demands $1 million, and despite Oleg's negotiation efforts, he won't budge. With no option, Oleg hands over the rest of the money and drags Pavel's body to the family's trial. The moment they step inside the court, everyone regains their powers and chaos ensues. Boris teleports out of his cell, he and Pavel start attacking everyone, Sasha breaks the bars of her sibling's cell, and together they take down a number of officers while everyone else scarpers. Finally, now they're reunited, Boris decides this plan that brought them together officially makes Oleg part of the family. Waiting outside for them are armed cops. Rita distracts them by flying over them, pretending to be a religious apparition. This gives the family enough time to steal a car and make their getaway, but the police come to their senses and start chasing them through the city. Boris teleports inside one of the cop cars and steers them in the other direction. Sasha rolls some with her super strength. When the family accidentally drive through boxes of veggies that make a mess of the windscreen, Oleg pours water from his finger to clean it. Sasha again uses her strength, this time to make the car suddenly turn, which causes a police car pileup, although one cop car avoids it and continues to give chase. Eventually, they make their escape when Rita uses her flying force to push the car up into the sky. Sometime later, the family meets with the smugglers and pays them to hide in one of their containers so they can escape to Thailand undetected. But now they have 20 long days to spend only with each other. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on all notifications so you don't miss our upcoming videos.